Maybe she doesn't smile because she never earned anything worth smiling about. The words cut across the chow hall just loud enough to make the nearest tables go quiet. Forks paused above trays. Coffee cups hovered near mouths. A few sailors looked up, then quickly looked down again, pretending they had not heard. Petty Officer First Class Evelyn Harper stood near the end of the serving line with a plastic tray in both hands. One carton of milk, black coffee, scrambled eggs, wheat toast, and a small bowl of fruit arranged with the exactness of someone who noticed where everything belonged. She did not turn around at first. She only shifted her thumb against the edge of her collar, a small movement, almost invisible, as if checking that something beneath the fabric was still hidden. The chow hall at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado was crowded after morning training. Boots scraped under tables. Metal trays clattered against counters. The air smelled of burned coffee, powdered eggs, disinfectant, and ocean salt dragged in on damp uniforms from the cold Pacific air outside. It was the kind of ordinary military morning where noise covered everything, where young men laughed too loudly because they were tired, hungry, and still trying to prove they belonged. Evelyn moved through it without hurry. She was a white woman in her early 30s, 5'7", lean under a regulation uniform that gave away nothing except discipline. Her brown hair was tied low at the back of her head. Her face was pale from lack of sleep, but steady, framed by sharp cheekbones and eyes the color of rain over steel. She was not unfriendly. She was not warm. She carried herself like someone who had learned that expressions could become questions, and questions could become doors better left closed. At the table closest to the soda machines, 3 recruits watched her with the restless cruelty of men who had failed at something that morning and needed somewhere to place the shame. Cole Bennett sat in the middle, broad-shouldered, sandy-haired, handsome in the careless way that made other recruits listen before deciding if he was worth following. Ryan Mercer leaned beside him, laughing a half-second too early at everything Cole said. Travis Holt stood behind them with his tray still in his hands, quieter than the others, but not brave enough to walk away. They had come off water confidence training less than an hour earlier. Their uniforms were dry now, but their pride was still soaked through. Evelyn heard every word. She always did. She heard Cole say she looked like somebody had canceled Christmas. She heard Ryan mutter that Chow was not a funeral. She heard Travis give one uncertain laugh, the kind that asked permission. Evelyn kept walking. She chose a table at the back corner, the one with the wall behind it, and a clear line of sight to both exits. She set down her tray, sat with her shoulders square, and placed her coffee on the right side where her hand could reach it without looking. Her eyes moved once across the room, not nervously, not suspiciously, just measuring. Exit door, kitchen corridor, serving counter, security camera, 2 instructors near the far wall, a mop bucket left too close to the walkway, a recruit with a wrapped wrist, a clock running 3 minutes slow. Details entered her mind and disappeared into order. That was when Cole raised his voice again. "Hey, ma'am," he called, stretching the word until it became an insult. "You always look that serious, or did the Navy forget to issue you a personality?" A few recruits laughed. Not many. Enough. Evelyn lifted her fork, took one bite, and chewed slowly. She did not give them her face. Ryan grinned wider, encouraged by the silence. "Relax, sweetheart. It's breakfast. Nobody's asking you to storm a beach." The word sweetheart landed badly in the room, even among men who had laughed seconds before. Across the chow hall, Commander Nathan Briggs stepped through the entrance with a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a folder tucked beneath his arm. He had not come looking for trouble. He had come looking for one name on a transfer sheet that had arrived before sunrise. Then he saw Evelyn sitting alone in the back, and he stopped walking. Cole did not notice him. He was watching Evelyn, waiting for the crack, the flinch, the proof that his words could move her. "Maybe she doesn't smile," Cole said again, louder this time, "because she knows she doesn't belong here." Evelyn's fork paused over the tray, only for a second. Then she set it down with care, lifted her coffee, and looked at the 3 recruits for the first time. Her expression did not harden. It emptied. The laughter around Cole thinned into silence. Evelyn's voice was low, calm, and flat enough to make the whole table hear it. "Finish your food," she said, "and choose a better morning." For a moment, nobody moved. Evelyn Harper had not raised her voice, but the air around her table changed as if the room itself had taken a step back. Cole Bennett stared at her, still smiling, but the smile had become something he had to hold in place. Ryan Mercer looked toward the other recruits, searching for laughter that no longer came as easily. Travis Holt shifted his weight and glanced at the floor, the first sign that some part of him understood they had crossed a line without knowing where it led. Evelyn picked up her coffee and took a small drink. It was bitter, overcooked, and almost cold. She set the cup down exactly where it had been before. That small precision bothered Cole more than anger would have. Anger would have given him something to push against. Silence made him feel like a child throwing pebbles at a steel door. Around them, the Chow Hall tried to return to its normal rhythm, but it did not fully succeed. A spoon tapped against a bowl and stopped. Someone cleared his throat. At the far entrance, Commander Nathan Briggs remained still, watching with the patient attention of a man who had spent years learning when not to interrupt. He recognized Evelyn from the transfer packet, but the photograph had not captured what stood out now. The picture had shown a disciplined operator with a clean service record and eyes that refused the camera. The woman at the back table looked heavier than any file could explain. Not physically. She was lean, controlled, almost spare in her movements. The weight was somewhere behind the eyes, carried so quietly that most people mistook it for coldness. Cole pushed back his chair and stood. "Choose a better morning," he repeated, nodding as if the phrase amused him. "That is pretty dramatic for somebody eating eggs alone." Ryan stood with him, because Cole had stood first. Travis remained where he was for one extra second, then followed, slower than the others. Evelyn did not look away from them. She noticed Cole's shoulders first, too tense for confidence. Ryan's hands, restless near his tray. Travis's eyes, uncertain and uncomfortable. None of them were dangerous in the way the world could be dangerous. They were young, embarrassed, and loud. That made them careless. Careless people broke things and called it a joke. Cole walked toward her table, covering the distance with an exaggerated ease meant for the room to see. Ryan came on her right side. Travis drifted left, not fully blocking her, but close enough that the message was clear. 3 recruits around one seated woman. A few sailors at nearby tables turned their bodies slightly, ready to stand if needed. Evelyn saw that too. She hoped they would stay seated. This was not their lesson yet. Cole stopped across from her and placed one hand on the back of the empty chair. "We are just trying to help morale," he said. "You know, make the place less depressing." Evelyn lowered her eyes to her tray for a moment, then back to him. "Morale does not come from making someone smaller." Ryan gave a short laugh. "Come on. It is just Chow Hall talk. You cannot be that sensitive." Evelyn's face did not change. "I am not sensitive." Cole leaned slightly forward. Then smile. The word was simple. That was why it landed so hard. Not because it was loud, but because it reached for something personal and tried to make it public property. Commander Briggs saw Evelyn's thumb move again to the edge of her collar. This time, he noticed the chain beneath the fabric, hidden high against her chest. Evelyn did not touch it like jewelry. She touched it like a promise. The room quieted further, table by table, until the hum of the drink machine near the wall sounded too loud. Evelyn folded her napkin once, laid it beside the tray, and stood. She was not the tallest person near the table, but when she rose, the space around her seemed to correct itself. Cole's grin faded by a fraction. Evelyn looked at him, then at Ryan, then at Travis. "You are new," she said. "So I will explain this once. In uniform, respect is not decoration. It is maintenance. You either practice it every day, or you become the reason someone else has to clean up after you." Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. Cole swallowed his embarrassment and turned it back into arrogance. "You always talk like a training poster?" Evelyn stepped around the chair, calm as morning fog over the water outside. "Only when recruits make it necessary." Cole Bennett had expected her to shrink back, or snap, or look around for someone with more rank to protect her from the moment he had created. Instead, Evelyn Harper stood in front of him with both hands relaxed at her sides, her shoulders squared, her breathing even, and her eyes fixed on him like she was not deciding whether he had gone too far, but whether he was worth correcting at all. That was the first thing that unsettled him. The second was the silence around them. Chow halls were never truly silent. There was always a tray sliding somewhere, always a laugh from the corner, always a chair leg scraping tile. But now the room had lowered itself into a careful quiet. Even the recruits who had laughed before were watching their plates like they had suddenly remembered inspections could happen anywhere. Ryan Mercer tried to recover the mood with a grin, but it looked borrowed and poorly fitted. "Come on," he said, lifting both hands as if he had been accused of something harmless. "Nobody is trying to start anything. We are just saying you could lighten up." Evelyn turned her eyes to him. Ryan stopped smiling before he seemed to realize he had done it. "You do not know what people are carrying," she said. "That is why quiet professionals stay quiet." Travis Holt looked at her collar again. He had noticed the same movement Commander Briggs had seen from the doorway, the way her thumb brushed the hidden chain beneath the fabric whenever one of them mentioned smiling. It was not nervous. It was anchored, like a hand touching the edge of a photograph in a pocket. Cole noticed Travis looking and felt his control of the scene slipping. So he reached for the only tool he understood. He made it smaller. "Quiet professional," Cole said, letting out a short laugh. "That is a big phrase for someone nobody at this table has ever heard of." Evelyn nodded once, almost accepting the point. That was intentional. The answer did not land the way Cole wanted. A sailor 2 tables away looked up sharply. Another exchanged a glance with the man beside him. Commander Briggs took 1 step forward, slow enough that he did not draw attention from the whole room, but close enough that Evelyn entered the edge of his peripheral line with the 3 recruits. He had commanded long enough to recognize a training failure when he saw one. Not a failure of strength, or endurance, or skill. A failure of judgment. The kind that began in a lunchroom and ended years later in places where judgment mattered more than muscle. Cole leaned one hand on the table, careful not to touch her tray. "So what are you hiding then?" he asked. "Some classified cafeteria assignment?" Ryan laughed too loudly, grateful for the return of a joke. Travis did not. Evelyn looked down at Cole's hand on the table. Not with fear. With measurement. "Move your hand." Cole's jaw tightened. "Or what?" The words came out before he had thought through the shape of them. A few faces turned toward Commander Briggs now, sensing rank before seeing it. Evelyn did not answer Cole immediately. She glanced at the clock above the serving line. 3 minutes slow. Then at the instructors near the far wall. Then at the recruits around her. "Or you will spend the rest of the day wishing you had listened the first time somebody gave you a clean way out." Cole's ears reddened. He straightened, embarrassed that a woman he had tried to corner had made him feel corrected in front of half the room. "You really think you scare people with that calm voice?" he asked. Evelyn's expression remained still. No, she picked up her tray with one hand. "Fear is not the lesson." She stepped to leave, and Ryan shifted without thinking, blocking her path just enough to make the mistake visible. The room felt it. Travis felt it. Commander Briggs felt it most of all. Evelyn stopped inches from Ryan's shoulder. Her eyes moved to his name tape, then back to his face. "Mercer," she said quietly, reading it without effort. "You are going to move." Ryan hesitated. It was only a second, but it stretched across the room. Then Cole scoffed and reached toward Evelyn's upper sleeve, not to harm her, not even with force, but with the careless entitlement of someone trying to turn another person into a prop for his own pride. Evelyn shifted back before his fingers found fabric. The motion was clean, small, almost invisible. Cole's hand met only air. In that movement, her collar loosened. The chain beneath it slipped forward. A small, weathered piece of metal caught the fluorescent light against the plain fabric of her undershirt. It hung for one breath in full view of the table. An eagle. An anchor. A trident. Old. Scratched. One edge darkened, as if heat had kissed the metal and never fully left. Commander Briggs stopped walking. His coffee cup lowered slowly from his hand. Around the Chow hall, every sailor who recognized the shape understood at once that the room had changed, and that the 3 recruits were now standing in the shadow of something they had not earned the right to question. The trident did not shine like something new. It looked carried, not displayed. The gold had dulled at the edges, the surface marked by thin scratches that caught the cafeteria light in broken lines. One wing of the eagle held a faint black scar across the metal, too precise to be dirt, too permanent to be ignored. Evelyn Harper lowered her chin and saw it hanging free. For the first time that morning, something passed through her face. Not fear, not shame, recognition. Her hand rose slowly, covering the trident with the care of someone shielding a name spoken too loudly in public. Cole Bennett stared at it without understanding. He knew the shape, of course. Every recruit on that base knew the shape. They had seen it in training halls, on memorial walls, and photographs of men whose names instructors said with a different weight. But knowing a symbol from a distance was not the same as seeing it against the chest of the woman he had just mocked over breakfast. Ryan Mercer took half a step back. Travis Holt went still. The room did not explode into whispers. It did the opposite. The silence became disciplined. Older sailors straightened in their chairs. One instructor near the wall slowly removed his cap from the table. A chief petty officer at the coffee station turned fully toward Evelyn, his expression changing from curiosity to something close to respect. Commander Nathan Briggs walked forward at last. Each step sounded clear against the tile. He stopped several feet from the table, set his coffee down on the nearest empty surface, and looked at Evelyn as if the rest of the room had temporarily disappeared. "Petty Officer First Class Harper," he said. His voice was controlled, but it carried to every corner. "I was told your transport would not arrive until this afternoon." Evelyn slipped the trident back beneath her collar, but the room had already seen enough. "The schedule changed, sir," she said. "I did not want to interrupt morning operations." Briggs held her gaze for a moment, reading more than the words. "You never did like being announced." "No, sir." Cole's face lost its color by degrees. "Petty Officer First Class Harper." The way the commander said her name, the way the older sailors reacted. Pieces began falling into place, but none of them fit the picture Cole had built in his head. This was not a quiet woman with a bad attitude. This was not someone drifting through the chow hall looking for sympathy. This was a person the commander recognized before most people knew she had arrived. Briggs turned his eyes toward the three recruits. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "Names." Cole swallowed. "Recruit Cole Bennett, sir." Ryan answered next, quieter. "Recruit Ryan Mercer, sir." Travis looked directly at Briggs, his shoulders tight. "Recruit Travis Holt, sir." Briggs let the silence sit after each name, giving them the weight of being recorded. "You three were speaking to Petty Officer Harper when I came in." It was not a question, but Cole tried to soften it anyway. "Sir, we were just talking." It was not serious. Evelyn looked at him then, and Cole stopped. There was no anger in her eyes. That made it worse. Anger would have given him somewhere to hide. Her calm made him stand in the open with what he had done. Briggs glanced at Evelyn's collar, where the trident had disappeared again. "Not serious," he repeated. That is an interesting phrase to use after disrespecting someone whose record is classified above your current clearance. The words moved through the chow hall like a cold wind. Ryan looked at the floor. Travis closed his eyes for a second, ashamed before anyone ordered him to be. Cole's mouth opened, but no defense came out. Evelyn lifted her tray from the table. Her breakfast was almost untouched now, the coffee cooling beside the folded napkin. She could have let Briggs continue. She could have let the whole room watch them shrink under the authority they had failed to recognize. Instead, she spoke softly. "Commander, they are new." Briggs did not look away from the recruits. "New is not an excuse." "No, sir," Evelyn said. "But it is a starting point." That sentence unsettled the room more than punishment would have. Cole finally looked at her, as if seeing the difference between weakness and restraint for the first time. Evelyn adjusted her collar, hiding the trident completely, and picked up her coffee. Her hand was steady. "They wanted to know why I do not smile," she said. "That is not a chow hall story." Briggs's expression changed, almost imperceptibly. He knew enough not to ask. Around them, the sailors remained standing or still, caught between curiosity and respect. Evelyn stepped past the recruits without brushing them, without forcing them to move more than necessary. As she passed Cole, she paused just long enough for him to hear her clearly. "When you do not know a person's history," she said, "start with discipline." Then she walked toward the exit, leaving the three recruits in a room that had stopped laughing long before they understood why. The hallway outside the chow hall was quieter, but not peaceful. Sounds still followed Evelyn Harper through the doors in fragments. The soft scrape of chairs, the low murmur of embarrassed voices, the disciplined silence of people pretending not to watch what had just changed. She walked past the trophy case without slowing down. Inside the glass were photographs of graduating classes, polished plaques, challenge coins, and names engraved under bright lights. Young faces smiled from old pictures, arms around shoulders, eyes full of certainty. Evelyn did not look at them for long. Certainty had always seemed different after the world taught a person what it could cost. She reached the end of the corridor and stopped beside a narrow window facing the training field. Outside, The morning marine layer was beginning to lift off Coronado. The sky was pale gray over the Pacific, and the obstacle course stood empty for the first time all morning, ropes hanging still, sand lanes raked flat, puddles shining in the low spots from the last night's mist. Evelyn set her tray on the windowsill. The eggs had gone cold. The toast was untouched. She took the coffee instead, held it with both hands, and let the heat settle against her palms. It was not much warmth, but it was real. Behind her, the chow hall door opened. Commander Nathan Briggs stepped into the corridor and let it close slowly so the latch would not snap. For several seconds, he said nothing. That was one reason Evelyn had respected him before she ever served under his command. Briggs understood that silence was not always empty. Sometimes it was the only decent space left to give someone. He walked to the window and stood beside her, leaving enough distance to make it clear he had not come to crowd her. "You handled that cleaner than most would have," he said. Evelyn kept her eyes on the field. "They are recruits. They are adults in uniform. Both can be true, sir." Briggs almost smiled, but did not. His gaze moved to the faint outline beneath her collar, where the trident rested again out of sight. That pin made half the room forget how to breathe. Evelyn looked down at her coffee. It tends to do that when people see it before they know the story. Most people would make sure they saw it earlier. Most people did not receive that one. Briggs heard the difference immediately. Not a trident. That one. His expression softened by a degree, but he kept his voice even. "Black Lantern." Evelyn's fingers tightened once around the coffee cup. Barely. Then they relaxed. "I thought that file was sealed." "It is." "Then I would rather not discuss it in a hallway." "Understood." They stood together while a group of sailors passed at the far end of the corridor. The sailors saw Briggs, saw Evelyn, and straightened without being told. None of them spoke. When they were gone, Briggs turned slightly toward her. "The 3 recruits will be assigned corrective training." Evelyn shook her head once. "Not corrective. Foundational." Briggs studied her. "There is a difference. Corrective training tells them they did something wrong. Foundational training teaches them why it was wrong before they carry it into a team." Outside, wind pushed lightly across the sand. A gull cut across the gray sky and vanished beyond the roofline. Briggs looked back through the small window in the chow hall door. Cole Bennett stood inside with Ryan Mercer and Travis Holt, no longer performing for the room. Cole's arms were at his sides now. Ryan stared at the floor. Travis looked toward the exit with the face of someone who wanted to apologize but did not know if he had earned the right to speak. "They asked why you never smiled," Briggs said quietly. Evelyn took one slow breath. The question had followed her for years in different uniforms, different rooms, different mouths. Some asked with concern. Some asked with arrogance. Some asked because they believed a woman owed the world softness before it would grant her respect. She had learned not to answer all of them. "I smile when there is a reason," she said. Briggs nodded. "And when there is not." Evelyn turned from the window at last. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried a distance no hallway could measure. "Then I remember the people who should still be here to smile first." Briggs did not respond right away. There was nothing useful to add to a sentence like that. He only stood straighter, the way men did when words failed but respect remained. Evelyn picked up her tray again. "Put Bennett, Mercer, and Holt on water confidence at 0500, she said. "No shouting. No humiliation. Just standards." Briggs looked at her. "You want to supervise?" Evelyn glanced once toward the chow hall door, where 3 young men were learning that shame was heavier when nobody laughed with you. "Yes, sir," she said. "They wanted to see what I carry. Tomorrow they can learn what carries a team." At 0445 the next morning, the training pool looked almost silver under the floodlights. The rest of Coronado was still wrapped in darkness, the kind of cold coastal dark that made every breath visible and every sound travel farther than it should. Water lapped softly against the tile. Lane ropes floated in straight lines. A stack of training fins sat beside the deep end, lined up with the same quiet order Evelyn Harper had brought to her breakfast tray the day before. She arrived before anyone else, wearing a plain navy training shirt, utility pants, and boots darkened slightly by the damp air. Her hair was tied back. Her face was the same controlled mask the recruits remembered, but in this place it did not seem cold. It seemed fitted to the work. Commander Nathan Briggs stood near the entrance with a clipboard in one hand. He had expected her to arrive early. He had not expected to find the entire pool deck already inspected, equipment checked, safety lines placed, water temperature recorded, and emergency gear positioned exactly where it belonged. "You have been here a while," he said. Evelyn looked at the pool, not him. "Long enough to know the drain cover on lane 3 needs maintenance." Briggs glanced down at his clipboard and made a note without questioning her. At 0458, Cole Bennett, Ryan Mercer, and Travis Holt entered through the side door in physical training gear, shoulders tense and faces drawn from a night that had probably offered little sleep. They stopped when they saw Evelyn standing by the water. None of them spoke. The confidence Cole had worn in the Chow Hall was gone, not replaced by fear, exactly, but by the weight of a room replayed too many times in his head. Ryan kept his eyes forward. Travis looked as if he had rehearsed an apology all night and still did not trust his own voice to carry it correctly. Briggs stepped aside. This was Evelyn's deck now. She walked toward them, stopping at a respectful distance. "Good morning," she said. All three answered at once. "Good morning, Petty Officer Harper." The words came out stiff, formal, careful. Evelyn nodded once. "Today is not punishment. Punishment would be easy. It would let you focus on being tired, cold, and embarrassed. That would teach you nothing except how to resent the standard." The three recruits listened without moving. Somewhere above them, ventilation units hummed. Outside the glass windows, dawn had not yet reached the edge of the sky. "Yesterday," Evelyn continued, "you used a public room to measure a person you did not know. You mistook quiet for weakness. You mistook restraint for fear. And you mistook a uniform for permission to decide who deserved respect." Cole swallowed but kept his eyes on her. That effort mattered. Evelyn saw it and did not reward it too quickly. "Water confidence is not about the water," she said. "It is about what happens to your character when comfort leaves. Some people become louder. Some become smaller. A teammate learns to become useful." She pointed to 3 lanes. "You will work in pairs and rotate one observer. The observer does not mock. The observer studies breathing, form, and safety. The swimmer does not perform for pride. The swimmer follows the standard. If one of you struggles, the others do not laugh, complain, or make speeches. You help him reset." "Understood. Understood, Petty Officer Harper," they said. Travis's voice was the clearest. Evelyn turned to him briefly, then back to the group. "One more thing. You will not apologize to me because a commander is standing nearby. You will not apologize because a room saw you fail. An apology given to escape discomfort is just another form of self-protection." Cole's face tightened, but this time he did not defend himself. Evelyn stepped closer to the edge of the pool and looked at the black surface of the water. "Earn the apology by becoming the kind of men who would not repeat the mistake." Briggs, standing behind her, said nothing, but his eyes moved across the 3 recruits with approval he did not yet show. Evelyn lifted the whistle from the lanyard around her neck, but she did not blow it. Not yet. She let the silence work first. Cole looked from Evelyn to the water, then to Ryan and Travis. For the first time since the Chow Hall, he did not look like he wanted an audience. He looked like he understood that the lesson had begun before anyone got wet. Evelyn's thumb brushed the hidden trident beneath her shirt once, a brief touch, private and steady. Then she lowered her hand. "Lane 1, she said. "Begin." The first lap was quiet except for water moving against tile. Cole Bennett entered lane 1 with stiff shoulders, pushed off too hard, and burned through the first 25 yards like speed could erase memory. By the turn, his breathing had lost rhythm. By the second length, his kick became uneven. Evelyn Harper walked beside the lane without raising her voice, her boots steady on the wet deck. "Slow is smooth," she said. "Smooth keeps you useful." Cole heard her, but pride was still louder. He tried to force the pace again, and the water answered him the way water always did. It did not argue. It simply made every wasted movement cost more. Ryan Mercer stood as observer with a clipboard, eyes moving between Cole and the lane clock. At first, he looked uncomfortable holding responsibility instead of attention. Then Cole's breathing broke pattern, and Ryan's expression changed. He leaned forward. "Reset at the wall," he called. His voice cracked slightly, but the instruction was right. Evelyn glanced at him once. Not praise. Recognition. Cole reached the wall, gripped the edge, and pulled in air through clenched teeth. His face was red, not from danger, but from effort and embarrassment. Travis Holt stood near the shallow end with a towel folded over one arm, watching closely. Yesterday, he had watched because everyone else watched. Now he watched because someone's performance depended on it. Again, Evelyn said. Cole looked at her, expecting sharpness, maybe a lecture. There was none. This time, do not fight the pool. Listen to it. Cole nodded, too tired to make the nod arrogant. He pushed off again, slower. His arms lengthened. His kick settled. He crossed the lane with less noise and more control. Ryan marked the time. Travis let out one quiet breath, like he had been holding it for both of them. The rotation continued. Ryan swam next and discovered quickly that joking from the deck had been easier than keeping calm under fatigue. He started well, then lost focus at the halfway mark when his rhythm slipped. His hand touched the lane rope, and frustration flashed across his face. Do not perform your mistake, Evelyn said from the deck. Corrected. Ryan closed his eyes for half a second, reset his breathing, and finished the length clean. When he climbed out, he did not look for Cole to make a joke. Cole handed him a towel without being told. The gesture was small. Evelyn saw it. Briggs saw it too from the far side of the pool, where he stood with the clipboard lowered at his side. Travis went last. He was not the fastest of the three, but he listened better. He entered the water without drama, moved carefully, and followed every correction the first time. His weakness was not effort. It was hesitation. At the wall, Evelyn crouched near the lane, her voice low enough that only he could hear. You knew yesterday was wrong before the others did. Travis looked up, water dripping from his hair into his eyes. He did not answer. Why did you stay? She asked. The question was not cruel. That made it harder. Travis swallowed. I did not want them to think I was soft. Evelyn studied him for a moment. Behind them, Cole and Ryan went still. The ventilation hummed overhead. Dawn began to lighten the windows from black to blue-gray. Soft is not walking away from disrespect, Evelyn said. Soft is needing permission from the weakest part of the room. Travis looked down at the water. Yes, Petty Officer Harper. Again, she said. He pushed off, and this time his stroke carried more certainty. Not speed. Certainty. The morning built itself one length at a time. No one shouted. No one mocked. No one was allowed to hide inside exhaustion. Evelyn corrected posture, breathing, timing, and focus with the same calm precision she had used in the Chow Hall. When Cole lost rhythm, Ryan counted him back in. When Ryan rushed his turn, Travis reminded him to reset. When Travis hesitated before the deep end drill, Cole said, "You have it," and meant it. That was the first real sound of the lesson taking root. At 06:12, Evelyn called them out of the pool. The three recruits stood in a line, wet, tired, and different from the men who had walked in. Their shoulders sagged from effort, but their eyes were clearer. Evelyn stood before them with the whistle untouched around her neck. Yesterday, you used a team to make one person smaller, she said. Today, you used a team to make each other better. Remember which one made you stronger. Cole looked at the wet tile between his shoes. Then he raised his eyes. Petty Officer Harper, he said, voice rough but steady. I owe you an apology. Evelyn did not move. No, she said. Cole froze. Ryan and Travis looked at her. Evelyn's face remained calm. You owe me proof. The word proof stayed in the air longer than the whistle ever could have. Cole Bennett stood with water dripping from the sleeves of his training shirt, chest rising and falling, eyes fixed on Evelyn Harper as if he had expected forgiveness to be a door she would open because he finally knew how to knock. But Evelyn did not move toward comfort. She moved toward standards. Ryan Mercer looked from Cole to Travis Holt, then down at his own hands. They were red from the cold pool edge, fingers slightly stiff, but for the first time since arriving at Coronado, he seemed less worried about how he looked and more aware of what he had done. Travis stood straighter, not because anyone ordered him to, but because shame had finally become something useful inside him. Commander Nathan Briggs stepped closer, his clipboard tucked under one arm. Petty Officer Harper, he said, define proof. Evelyn turned toward the three recruits. The morning light had reached the high windows now, laying pale stripes across the pool deck. The water behind them had settled again, flat and bright under the overhead lamps. Proof is what you do when nobody is watching, she said. Proof is how you speak when the room gives you permission to be careless. Proof is whether you correct disrespect when it is popular, not after rank walks through the door. Cole absorbed every word without interrupting. That alone would have surprised the men from yesterday's chow hall. Evelyn walked to the bench where 3 towels had been folded before training began. She picked one up and handed it to Travis first. Not because he had done the most wrong, but because he had been the first to tell the truth. Travis accepted it with both hands. "Thank you, Petty Officer Harper." She gave the second to Ryan, who nodded once and did not try to smile his way out of the moment. The last went to Cole. He took it slowly. "I understand," he said. Evelyn looked at him. "Not yet." Cole's jaw tightened, then released. "No, Petty Officer Harper. You are beginning to." That was the closest thing to mercy she offered, and because it was not easy, it mattered more. Briggs watched the exchange with the quiet satisfaction of a commander seeing a lesson land without a speech. He had known operators who could break a room with volume. Evelyn could change one with restraint. That was rarer. The side door opened, and Chief Petty Officer Daniel Reeves entered carrying a maintenance folder. He stopped when he saw Evelyn. Then his eyes dropped briefly to the outline beneath her shirt where the trident rested hidden again. His face changed. Not surprise. Recognition with history behind it. "Harper," he said softly. Evelyn turned. For 1 second, her calm slipped into something older. "Chief Reeves." Briggs looked between them. "You two know each other?" Reeves held the folder tighter against his side. "We were in the same holding area after Black Lanterns, sir." The 3 recruits heard the name and went still, not because they understood it, but because every adult in the room did. Evelyn's eyes did not leave Reeves. The pool deck seemed to narrow around her. The hum of the ventilation became distant. Reeves took a careful step forward. "I heard you were coming back to training command." "I did not believe it." Evelyn's voice was quiet. "Neither did I." Reeves glanced at the recruits, then back at her. They know. They know enough to stop talking." Cole lowered his eyes. Ryan swallowed. Travis looked at Evelyn as if the person he had mocked in a cafeteria had become impossibly far away and painfully human at the same time. Reeves nodded, accepting her boundary. "Then they should know one more thing," he said. Evelyn's expression warned him not to go too far. Reeves respected it. He spoke only to the recruits, his voice steady. That trident she carries was not issued to her at graduation. It was handed to her by a teammate who believed she had earned it long before anyone else admitted it. No one moved. Evelyn looked toward the windows where dawn had finally reached the edge of the sky. Reeves continued, softer now. "So when you saw it yesterday, you were not looking at decoration. You were looking at trust." The word trust struck harder than classified, harder than rank, harder than any punishment Briggs could have assigned. Cole's face changed. Something proud in it finally gave way, not destroyed, but corrected. He looked at Evelyn and did not ask for forgiveness again. "I will prove it," he said. Evelyn held his gaze for a long moment. "Start with them," she said, nodding once toward Ryan and Travis. "A man who learns respect only for people above him has learned politics, not honor." Cole turned to the 2 recruits beside him. For once, he did not lead by noise. He simply stood with them, shoulder to shoulder, equal and quiet. Evelyn picked up the whistle and looped it once around her hand. The hidden trident rested beneath her shirt, unseen now, but somehow more present than before. "Showers, uniforms, then classroom 3, she said. 0700. "Today we discuss team culture." Ryan blinked. "With you, Petty Officer Harper?" Evelyn walked toward the exit without looking back. "With me," she said. "And this time, you will listen before you decide who belongs." Classroom 3 smelled faintly of dry markers, floor wax, and damp uniforms that had not yet forgotten the pool. At 0700, Cole Bennett, Ryan Mercer, and Travis Holt sat in the front row without being told. Their hair was still wet. Their notebooks were open. Their posture had the uncomfortable sharpness of men trying to show respect before they fully understood how to live it. Other recruits filtered in behind them, quieter than usual because word had already moved through the building faster than any official briefing. They knew something had happened in the Chow hall. They knew something had happened at the pool. They did not know the whole story, and for once, nobody was brave enough to invent one. Evelyn Harper entered last, carrying no stack of papers, no presentation slides, no dramatic speech prepared to make herself larger. Commander Nathan Briggs stood near the back wall with Chief Petty Officer Daniel Reeves beside him, both silent, both watching. Evelyn placed a single dry erase marker on the instructor's desk, then faced the room. Her trident was not visible. Her uniform was plain. Her expression was calm. Team culture, she said, is not what you claim when inspection is coming. It is what you tolerate when nobody important is supposed to hear it. No one moved. Cole looked down at his notebook, then forced himself to look up. Evelyn noticed. A weak team does not usually fall apart because of one large failure, she continued. It usually starts with small permissions. Permission to joke at someone's expense. Permission to confuse silence with consent. Permission to decide that a person has to prove their worth before you offer basic respect. Ryan's pencil hovered above the page, but he did not write. He was listening too hard. Evelyn walked slowly along the front of the room. Yesterday, 3 recruits made a mistake in public. This morning, they started correcting it in private. That matters. Not because it makes the mistake disappear, but because growth has to begin somewhere. Cole's throat tightened. She had not excused him. She had not protected him from accountability. But she had not buried him under it either. That balance made him feel the full weight of what he had been given. Travis raised his hand. The room turned slightly toward him. Evelyn nodded. Speak. Travis stood because it felt wrong to stay seated. Petty Officer Harper, yesterday I knew it was wrong before I said anything. I did not start it, but I stayed with it. That was cowardice. The room held its breath. Evelyn looked at him for a long second. That was honesty, she said. Do something with it. Travis sat down slowly. Cole stood next. This time he did not look at Ryan for support or at the back of the room for approval. He looked at Evelyn. I made you into a target because I was embarrassed about my own failure. I called it joking because that sounded better than admitting I was being small. I do not expect you to accept an apology today. I will prove it in how I treat people after this. Evelyn's face did not change, but something in the room did. The lesson had moved from instruction into memory. Ryan stood last, quieter than both of them. I laughed because it was easier than having a spine. A few recruits lowered their eyes. Not in judgment. In recognition. Evelyn let the silence settle where it needed to settle. Then she picked up the marker and wrote one word on the board. Respect. Under it, she wrote another, earned. Then a third, given. She turned back to the class. People like to say respect is earned. That is true when you are talking about trust, authority, and leadership. But basic human respect is not a medal. You do not wait for someone to impress you before you stop yourself from degrading them. Commander Briggs folded his arms, his expression unreadable, but his eyes stayed fixed on the recruits in the front row. Evelyn capped the marker. The uniform does not make you better than the person beside you. It makes you responsible for more. Your words carry the service with them. Your conduct tells people what kind of sailor you are before your record ever does. The class ended without applause, without dramatics, without anyone pretending the morning had become easy. When the recruits filed out, Cole, Ryan, and Travis remained. Evelyn gathered the marker from the desk. Cole stepped forward, then stopped at a respectful distance. Petty Officer Harper, he said, thank you for not humiliating us back. Evelyn looked at him. Humiliation teaches people to hide. Standards teach people to stand. Ryan nodded slowly, like he wanted to remember the exact words. Travis glanced toward her collar, then away, careful now with curiosity. Evelyn saw it, and spoke before he could apologize for looking. You wondered why I do not smile. The 3 recruits went still. Evelyn's hand rose to the hidden trident, touching it once through the fabric. Some reasons belong to the people who did not come home, she said. Some belong to the people who did. I carry both. No one asked anything else. Outside, the morning had fully arrived over Coronado. The flag beyond the classroom window lifted in the ocean wind, bright against the clearing sky. Evelyn walked past them toward the door, not softened, not healed, not suddenly transformed for their comfort. Just steady. Before she stepped into the hallway, she looked back once. Tomorrow, 0500, she said. Same pool. Bring better character. Cole, Ryan, and Travis answered together, clear and without performance. Yes, Petty Officer Harper. For the first time since arriving on base, Evelyn almost smiled. Almost. Then she turned down the corridor, the hidden trident resting over her heart, and left behind 3 recruits who finally understood that respect was not demanded by noise, but earned in silence, carried in discipline, and proven when nobody was watching.